Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy, with a transformation spread for one of my dogs. So I happened to come across, or I should say, showed up in my feed because I subscribed to Brania K Spiritual, and that's her channel name. And it showed up at about the time that I was realizing that I really needed to address some weight loss issues with my old dog. So she had kind of, can't say steadily, it's been fairly, subtle, but, eventually it's not subtle, But she'd been losing weight and shrinking around her rib cage area and her rib cage was becoming more pronounced. But she's still, she's hopping and popping around and, I call her sometimes my dancy dog. I feel like her name is Ginger, and I feel like I should have called her Hopalong. But anyway, she's not in attitude showing much in the way of a change, but she was definitely losing weight, and I decided it was time to look into it. I'm still looking into it, and it may just be, so I took her to a vet, and the vet didn't have much to say about, she didn't have worms. I thought it might be worms. And then he had an emergency surgery or something he had to go do, and so he couldn't take blood sample at that moment. And so today I'm going to go to actually a different vet and get a blood sample. Just have some blood work done on her. I mean, it's pretty standard for older dogs anyway. They need to have blood work every now and then. And I have never had blood work done on her. So it's overdue. But this transformation spread by Brania, and I'll try to remember to put a link to her original video down below, showed up at a time when I was thinking about this. And I thought, I'm going to do that transformation spread for Ginger. Because this, kind of her old age transformation, and see what's needed. So I'm going to use 2 decks. I'm going to use my Wise Dog Tarot. This is the backing. And my Divine Dogs Oracle. This is the backing. And it is 6 questions, is it? It's 6, but number 6 has an A and a B. So I will read off the question, and then I'll give some thought to whether I need to shift the meaning of it a little bit. Certainly for 6A and B, I think I need to, but we'll deal with it when we get there. So what am I being called to transform? And here we have the King of Swords. So this is interesting because this has come up for me before in regards to dogs, and has been the vet, specifically surgery at the vet. So, of course, it can just represent, look at the butterfly, and it's kind of a black blue. It can just be, what needs to transform is, well, loss. And I was thinking it was the loss of the dog, but it could just be the weight loss. There's too much loss. And with that heart in there, maybe it's a matter. I mean, I don't know, maybe it does have to do with her heart, but I could certainly see that as being about health. So interesting. Another thing that's interesting about her, her health in general, is a long time ago, years ago, not super long time ago, but maybe 4 years ago. I don't think it was 5 years ago. She was put on um, a medication for COPD, so the diminishing lung capacity. And even at the time she was put on the medication, the vet said that, well, this could be COPD or it could be allergies. And I've seen evidence of COPD in terms of her inability to, even if I'm doing fun little obedience things, I can't do it for very long with her. I can hear her breathing to some extent. But otherwise, like I said, she hops and pops around. She spends her time outside, so um, probably more than any of my, well, maybe Boo spends more time outside right now. But Ginger would be a close second. So there are ways in which negative situations have not occurred. Another interesting thing about her health, well, that's not interesting, it's a repercussion of, so she takes this medicine for COPD, and eventually I took her off of that medication for this reading, and I noticed her belly was really bloated. And I don't know if it was the vet who told me this or if I looked it up online, but that medication enlarges the liver. Why would you not tell somebody that when you start to give that medication to an animal? Why would you not say that? And let the owner make a determination on whether they wanted an enlarged liver in their dog or to deal in a different way with the problem at hand. Like, oh. Anyway, so when that information came to light, I decided to put her on an allergy medication and take her off of this other medication, and it seems to have worked fine. And so I'm seeing less of that, so I was all prepared at one point for her to gradually, lose her lung capacity and have that kind of a situation going on. She's an old dog. Your average person, if they saw her, she's got the gray muzzle back onto her face, so she's very gray. She's obviously an old dog. But otherwise, they wouldn't be able to tell she was an old dog. She's very limber. Yeah. Anyway. So she's been through kind of a health scare before, or scary to me. I don't know how scary it was to her. And seems to have, I won't say beaten it, but have dealt with it in a jolly manner. Jolly manner. She's a jolly old dog. So, number 2. So interpreting this as surgery is like, really? I think maybe not, but but weight loss, definitely. And I don't know, the King of Swords I usually take to be boundaries. I couldn't give Ginger more boundaries than she already has. So, she has her own crate. I almost never take her outside. Now, that could be that I need to change that. I need to shift and have less boundaries. But I doubt that for an old dog. Part of the reason I don't walk her or really my other dogs, except for downtown, is because we have so many loose dogs here. And there was one time, I can tell I'm really rambling today. Sorry about that. I'll never get through the spread. When I was out walking her, and a dog that was normally on a leash and always acted aggressively, well, tied out in the yard, was loose. And I'm like, holy shit. And it came charging toward me. And I scooped up little Ginger and held her as high up on me as I could And even then, this dog was jumping up and snapping at me, and I just slowly rotated around to keep him. And he actually put a hole in my coat, you know, and yeah. So I'm not thinking too much about taking Ginger, little vulnerable Ginger. She's not super small. She's kind of she looks like a Beagle Hound cross or something, but um, I don't even know if I could hold her up that long at this stage in my life. So, but anyway, next. What needs to be eliminated for this transformation to take place? Well, this is a very mystical card, the High Priestess. Now, how do I interpret the High Priestess for a dog? What needs to be eliminated in this for this transformation to take place? So if the High Priestess is an intermediary between two worlds, well, we're back to boundaries then, aren't we? I mean, this again, this could be taking her to the vet. With the wording, it says what needs to be eliminated for this transformation to take place. You could say, you know, to not take her to the vet. But and, you know, and there is always just letting her take her course and letting her decline. And I'm not somebody that's inclined to do that unless it's not financially feasible for me to follow through on something that I start medically. But if we see the High Priestess as kind of the boundary between two worlds, then it's the elimination of the boundary. So to me, that's maybe the elimination of essentially me, the person who makes the decision between one thing or another, or maybe even the elimination of the barrier to knowledge. You know, it could be indicating that I'm just as well looking stuff up online as I am taking her to the vet or something like that. And that there's some truth in that, because since I couldn't get the blood work done at the vet the first time, I went online and looked it up and was seeing that a dog's digestive system alters when it's older. So my expectation is usually that a dog will gain weight, but I've certainly seen dogs that lose weight. And the explanation online when I was looking up weight loss was more along the lines of poor nutrient absorption, and thus, you know, weight loss for that reason. And they even, a couple of places even advocated giving high quality, like the quality in terms of fat and protein that I would think of giving a high performance dog or a puppy. They're kind of advocating for an old dog. And it's like, oh, what about the kidneys, you know? But anyway, something to discuss with my vet. And so that's what I did in the meantime, because the Christmas holidays happened, and so I wasn't even going to be home and around to address the situation. So I just increased her food. I haven't put her on a different food because I have a relatively, you know, I have a mid-grade food that I keep my dogs on. And it could also be the number two, that what needs to be eliminated is mystery. The mystery needs to be eliminated for this transformation to take place. So number three, what needs to be nurtured for this transformation to take place? The Knight of Cups. Aw. Love that little old dog. Just love that little old dog. This can also be quite literal, making sure she has a lot of water available to her. And I kind of started on that, but I'm not in a perfect habit that way. And to me, that means making sure she has water in her crate. So yeah, how sweet. And practical, because I think it is partly that literal water. Make sure she has water. How can I navigate this transformation with joy? And it's the Six of Cups. Memories. This even looks like an old dog, doesn't it? Looks like a little old Chihuahua. There's memories. I think it's calling on me a little bit to think about what made Ginger happy in the past, and maybe providing her. I'm trying to think. Unfortunately, she can't have one of her precious things that she had in the past, which was my other dog that I had. I had a big lab cross who used to let her snuggle up into, her haunch area, the area of her stomach, between her rib cage and her back leg. Ginger would collapse into that area, into a little ball, and none of my dogs. She started to make that move with a couple of my present dogs, my two big dogs. And they're like, "You weirdo lady, get away from me." Whether she'll actually achieve it with one of them, I don't know, but I'm kind of skeptical. So I don't know that I'll be able to provide that. I have provided, seeing her do that resulted in me doing some thinking about dog beds, getting her a dog bed, because she didn't have another dog to be her bed, that she needed another dog bed. And that seems to have been fairly successful. I actually got cat boxes and some of the cheap microfiber throw blankets kind of thing, lap blanket type of things, and put that in there, and she uses that quite a bit. So I was happy with the results of that. I may eventually get her a doggy sweater as well. So let's move on to number 5. Number 5, in the darkest moments, what is my message of joy? Is this the 5 of Wands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that's a little scary. Now, these dogs are not fighting. And one of them is an old dog. That looks like my old Jessie dog that she used to snuggle up with. In my darkest moments, what is the message of joy? For me, it's how many dogs I've had and may have in the future. Part of me is very resolved to let doggy attrition happen, to have less and less. And part of me is like, there's that one little pit bull that I worked with at the animal shelter, and she has such potential to be a good dog. So part of me goes down that road, or thinks, really, no dogs at all after Zippy. And part of me is plotting to get a toy poodle relatively easy maintenance, except for the clipping, which I could probably figure out how to do in a reasonable manner. But you know, low allergy, which I've got such allergy problems now. They're usually relatively happy dogs. They're very extremely trainable, smart dogs. So I thought, easy dog next time. Easy dog. If I have a last dog beyond the set of 4 that I have now, it would be either a miniature or a toy poodle, which is totally outside of my character. My character is more like a mastiff. But, yeah. And part of me is like, just let them all go. Just let them go. Get an apartment, low stress, you know, low demand. I probably won't be able to do that though. Though I can easily say that that would be the wisest course. So in the darkest moments, what is my message of joy? That was it. I've had, and that's what I feel like. That's more like the 6 of Cups. It's like, well, I've had dogs. Maybe these are the dogs that are waiting for me in the afterlife. I think Jessie is not, for my own reasons that I won't go into here. But I do believe there's at least one. In the darkest, okay, no. Move on, Jennifer. Number 6. How do I live in the world? This says, how do I live in the world as my new self? And then it has work and home or personal. So I feel like this needs to be a we, as in me and Ginger. So how do Ginger and I live in the world with her new self? Or with this new situation, I guess I would say. And I don't think I'm going to do the A and B. She has A as work and B as home and personal. And I don't, you know, with a dog, I don't really need that level of discrimination. So how do we live in the world with this new situation? And we got a beautiful card, the Star. And I see this as kind of intuitive guidance. Just follow whatever happens. I see this as almost a non-resistance, you know, and to me, because the dog is turning, that my job is to follow the dog, that the dog knows what it needs, and I need to follow, you know, whatever the situation, whatever she seems to be calling for, whatever, to let her guide me in this transformation. So now I'm going to do this, and hopefully it'll go faster. Hopefully, because it's got keywords, maybe it'll keep me on track a little better. What am I being called to transform? Solitude, time to restore. So this would mean actually, so we had the King of Swords in the other deck. This would mean actually lowering some boundaries. Like I said, she's got boundaries now. She's almost never out of the house. So maybe it's time for me to, and you know, I've had such needy dogs. So it's like it's time to get her out of the house. And that could mean out of the house to the vet, which we're doing. It could mean, you know, take her, you know, I am very guilty of focusing on the dogs that need the most, well, who have the most issues and need the most remediation and are the biggest mysteries to me in terms of how to get them on the other side, to the other side. I was just listening to, oh, and I don't even have it here anymore, a book on CD by Temple Grandin, and talking about essentially autistic behaviors in animals. And oh my gosh, does it sound a lot like Rufus? Yes. I'm like, oh my God, I have a dog that is autistic. Now, I looked online, And one place says one thing, and another place, so one place kind of acknowledges it and says, you can use X drug as a potential treatment. The other one, which I would hesitate to do, because if, just like they say for humans, they say an autism spectrum. If he's on the autism spectrum, he's not at an extreme end, because his behavior, while not perfect toward other dogs, is not nearly as severe as his reaction to people. So, but it really rang bells for me. And so I might ask my vet about that. But back to Ginger. So I'm guilty of neglecting Ginger the most because she's small and old and she doesn't need all of that exercise or stimulation. And honestly, I believe that she doesn't. But it also results in her not getting a lot of individual attention, which is unfortunate. And I do think she does need that. We all need that. And Boo is so well behaved that I don't worry about her very much. But she's a big dog and she does need to get out when she's a young dog, and she needs to get out some. So those two get neglected, and Ginger the most, because I'm frankly overwhelmed with dogs at the moment. So next, what needs to be eliminated for this transformation to take place? So, playfulness just for fun. So that's an odd, I don't know, so this is shifting my thinking. It's like, oh my gosh, am I really going to have to isolate her somehow? Like, seriously, like isolate her even from my own dogs? So poor Ginger doesn't get much of this. Well, she'll, like I said, she'll hop and pop around, and but she doesn't truly engage with the other dogs. Really, Boo engages with Rufus and with Zippy, but Ginger doesn't really play with anybody. It needs to be eliminated for this transformation to take place. I'm going to say that this would be like reversed, her lack of playfulness or lack of doing things just for the fun of it. Because unless the vet says something about needing to isolate her, I'm going to kind of interpret these as reversed. She needs less solitude. She needs more playfulness. What needs to be nurtured for this transformation to take place? Humility, bow down. This is a play bow. So even though it says humility here, I think it does have to do with play. I think I need to. Now, this is not about her weight loss to me. This is about this transformation and how we're dealing with the transformation is about our coping mechanisms. How can we cope with this transformation? And to me, this is a play bow. It's a reinforcement of the fact that she needs more playtime. And with her, it can just be a fraction. Just a fraction of attention actually makes her quite happy. Just this morning, she was doing a nice little sit for me. She came over and sat and was just looking expectantly at me, and I went down and gave her kind of a mini doggy hug and a little shaking of her. She's got that houndy loose skin, so I kind of gave her a shake of her houndy loose skin for a second, mini rib massage. And she was so delighted by that. You know, when I let up, she just started hipping and hopping around and jumping and so anyway. How can I navigate this transformation with joy? Openness, embrace the possible. And look what a happy dog. I mean, that is the way she gets. Um, so, you know, just being open to, I think this is all like telling me, all right, so give her those little moments of joy like I just described. Do it more often because it is possible. It's easily possible. To just get down there on little Ginger's level, rustle up her skin a little bit, and make her happy regardless. I mean, that's all it takes for her, and I need to keep that in mind. In the darkest moments, when she's losing hope, I'm losing hope, what is my message of joy? Oh, weird. Anger. Feel the heat, then turn it down. So what I get out of this is that if, and this can be quite true of me, is that when the going gets tough, let it motivate me. So in the sense that when we get pissed off, we get really motivated. Like you get pissed off enough to write a letter to the company or to your representative or something. You're just that angry. So yes, let anger motivate me to make a change, to do something. So I could see this be true in terms, well, in a variety of ways, but we'll wait for it to unfold. I'm not really expecting to have darkest moments from this. I'm not expecting it to be quite that level of drama. How do I live in the world? How do we live with this situation? Joker. Joker. Putting a prairie dog on the dog leash. Things are never as they seem. So that's interesting. And I'm not sure what that, I mean, I can see that it might mean kind of like my old dog. It could be this: my old dog isn't as old as she seems on the interior. The fact that she's losing weight might not be an old dog crisis. You know, it might not mean that she's nearing the end. It just means that I need to feed her more. And then she's perfectly happy. And she goes out and she has a lovely time in her old age and exceeds beyond anyone's expectations in terms of her old dog. I have certainly seen, once we got past the COPD thing, in terms of thinking that was kind of the beginning of the end, and how limber and hoppy poppy she is at this stage of her life, at this level of gray on her muzzle. I really have no idea exactly how old she is, because she's a stray that came to stay. She was dumped in the neighborhood. But that she's going to live to be an old dog. She's going to live to be an old dog. So that could very well be what this means. You know, I'm going to do my due diligence, take her to the vet, get the blood tests, and see what happens. If it comes all back groovy, then we can power on with Miss Ginger. And I feel like out of this reading, what I'm getting strongest is that I need to not coddle her particularly and not neglect her in terms of activities. And certainly I have been feeling somewhat better recently. Of course, I've been on vacation. But I'm hoping that I can get to some form of routine that will give all of my dogs some time out of the house, as well as me, on a more regular basis than has been the case in the last year. Because we all need it. All of us. We all need it. All right, everybody. Take care. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me while I ramble about my dogs. Bye-bye.